Before you can conquer the world outside, you must first master the world within. The mind is not merely an instrument. It is the very architect of your destiny. To achieve true success, you must take command of your thoughts, for they are the seeds from which reality blooms. What you allow your mind to dwell upon becomes the shape of your life. This is the journey of individuation. Knowing the self, mastering the unconscious, and guiding the conscious mind toward purposeful action. Your brain is not merely an organ of thought, it is the compass of your very destiny, quietly charting the course of your life with every fleeting idea and subtle impulse. Each neuron, each pattern of thought, holds within it the power to guide you toward greatness or to lead you into stagnation. To steer it consciously is to become the captain of your own inner world, to take responsibility for the currents of your mind rather than being tossed about by them. Awareness is the rudder, and deliberate focus is the sail. Without these, the mind drifts aimlessly, carried by fears, doubts, and unexamined habits. When you learn to observe your thoughts, to distinguish between the distractions of the ego and the whispers of your higher self, you begin to navigate life with intention rather than reaction. Success does not come to those who wait, it comes to those who understand that mastery over the brain is mastery over reality itself. To consciously steer your mind is to align your inner compass with the true north of your purpose, allowing every decision, every action, every dream to flow from a place of clarity, courage, and profound self-knowledge. Thoughts left unexamined are like hidden shadows lurking in the depths of your psyche, silently shaping your actions, reactions, and ultimately the trajectory of your life. These unobserved mental patterns operate beneath the surface, often unnoticed, yet their influence is immense. They can dictate your choices, color your perceptions, and subtly steer you toward outcomes you may not consciously desire. Just as darkness can conceal both danger and opportunity, unexamined thoughts carry the potential to undermine your intentions if left unchecked. To allow them to go unrecognized is to surrender control over your own mind, letting the unconscious dictate the course of your existence. But when you bring these shadows into the light of awareness, you begin a transformative process. You understand the motivations behind your fears, the roots of your self-doubt, and the impulses that have silently governed your behavior. Examination is not mere introspection, it is an act of liberation. By confronting these mental shadows, you reclaim the power to choose your responses, to redirect your energy, and to consciously construct the life you wish to lead. In essence, unexamined thoughts are the unseen architects of your destiny. But once illuminated, they become tools of insight, growth, and mastery over yourself. Mastery of the mind does not begin with external accomplishments, nor with forceful willpower. It begins with the quiet, deliberate cultivation of self-awareness. To truly understand the mind, you must first become a careful observer of your own inner dialogue, the constant stream of thoughts, judgments, and narratives that shape your perception of reality. Every fleeting idea, every recurring worry, every hidden desire carries a message from the deeper layers of your psyche. By observing these mental patterns without judgment, you begin to discern which thoughts serve your higher purpose and which are remnants of fear, habit, or conditioning. Self-awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room suddenly. The shadows that once controlled your behavior become visible, and with visibility comes choice. When you consistently watch the ebb and flow of your thoughts, you gain the ability to interrupt destructive patterns, redirect attention toward what truly matters, and nurture the mental habits that foster growth and resilience. This practice is not passive. It requires honesty, patience, and courage, for some truths about the self are uncomfortable to face. Yet it is through this deliberate observation of your inner dialogue that mastery of the mind is born, and through this mastery, the path to purposeful action, clarity, and lasting success is illuminated. Every idea that you allow to take root in your consciousness carries with it the power to shape not only your own life, but the very world you will one day inhabit. The mind is a fertile garden, and each thought is a seed. Some are small and fleeting, others are powerful and transformative, yet all have the potential to grow into realities that influence your destiny. When you dwell upon fear, doubt, or resentment, these thoughts silently extend their reach into your decisions, your relationships, and the environments you create, slowly constructing a world that mirrors the turmoil within. Conversely, when you nurture thoughts of clarity, purpose, and courage, you cultivate a mental landscape that encourages growth, innovation, and achievement. Conscious attention is the water and sunlight of this inner garden. Without it, ideas remain dormant or grow wild in chaotic patterns. By deliberately choosing which ideas to nurture, by feeding the mind with knowledge, vision, and disciplined imagination, you begin to craft the blueprint of your future. Each thought becomes an architect of reality, each moment of mindful reflection an act of creation. In this way, the inner life is inseparable from the outer life, the world you inherit. The successes you achieve and the legacy you leave behind are born first in the quiet, persistent cultivation of your consciousness. To master your destiny, therefore, is to master the cultivation of your own mind. The ego, often misunderstood as the core of the self, is not the ruler of your being but rather a servant, an instrument designed to help you navigate life, not to dictate its course. It is a construct of your conscious identity, formed from personal experiences, social conditioning, and the desire for recognition. While it can provide confidence, focus, and practical organization, it is limited in scope and often blinds you to the deeper currents of your unconscious mind. To allow the ego to rule is to live at the mercy of pride, fear, and superficial ambition, chasing fleeting validation instead of enduring purpose. True mastery comes when you recognize the ego's place as a loyal aid to your higher self, guiding actions while remaining subordinate to your deeper values and inner wisdom. When the ego serves rather than dominates, it becomes a powerful tool, helping you manifest your vision without clouding it with insecurity or arrogance. It learns humility through awareness and discipline, transforming from a source of internal conflict into a bridge connecting conscious intention with the boundless potential of your unconscious mind. In this way, the ego becomes a faithful companion on the journey of individuation, supporting your growth, enhancing your resilience, and amplifying your ability to act in alignment with your higher purpose rather than the whims of superficial desire. By mastering this relationship, you ensure that every decision, every thought, and every action flows not from ego-driven impulse, but from a conscious, purposeful, and integrated self. Fear is not merely a surface emotion. It is a shadow that resides deep within the unconscious, quietly influencing your thoughts, decisions, and behaviors without your awareness. Often, you may find yourself reacting to situations with hesitation, doubt, or avoidance, unaware that the roots of these responses lie in unacknowledged fears buried in the depths of your psyche. The unconscious mind stores not only memories and experiences but also archetypal patterns of threat and survival, which can subtly control your life if left unexamined. To confront fear is to shine the light of consciousness into these hidden corners, to observe without judgment the anxieties, insecurities, and limiting beliefs that have silently guided your actions. This confrontation is not a one-time act but a continual practice of facing discomfort, questioning assumptions, and daring to move beyond the protective walls the mind has built. When you courageously engage with your fears, you reclaim the freedom of your mental space, liberating yourself from automatic reactions, paralyzing doubt, and self-imposed limitations. This reclamation is transformative. It allows your mind to operate with clarity, creativity, and purpose, unshackled by shadows that once dictated your path. In essence, fear is not an enemy to be destroyed but a messenger to be understood. By confronting it, you awaken a higher level of consciousness, reclaim autonomy over your thoughts, and step fully into the realm of deliberate, empowered action. Discipline is far more than rigid routine or mechanical repetition. It is the vital bridge that spans the gap between your intentions and their eventual manifestation in the world. Every grand vision, every noble goal, begins as a seed within the mind, a fleeting thought, an aspiration, or a dream. But without the steady application of effort, these seeds remain unrealized, drifting in the realm of possibility without ever taking root in reality. Discipline is the conscious commitment to daily action, the unwavering willingness to align your behaviors with your highest priorities even when comfort, distraction, or doubt tempts you to stray. It transforms abstract intention into tangible results, turning ideas into projects, plans into achievements, and aspirations into lived experience. Yet discipline is not a harsh master, it is a loyal partner, guiding the mind to cultivate focus, resilience, and consistency. It requires patience, for the fruits of sustained effort are rarely immediate, and courage, for it often demands confronting discomfort and resisting the seductive pull of instant gratification. When practiced diligently, discipline becomes a form of self-respect, a declaration that your goals are worthy of persistent attention and that your inner potential deserves to be realized. Through discipline, the intangible thoughts of today are woven into the concrete realities of tomorrow, bridging the invisible chasm between what you desire and what you accomplish, and ultimately shaping a life of purposeful achievement and profound fulfillment. The mind is not a machine to be coursed, nor a stubborn horse to be forced along a path. It is a delicate and complex ecosystem that responds not to violence or sheer will, but to understanding, awareness, and insight. Attempting to control it through force, through harsh self-criticism, denial, or suppression, only breeds resistance, tension, and inner conflict, for the unconscious mind rebels when confronted with coercion. True mastery arises when you take the time to understand the intricate workings of your own thoughts, emotions, and impulses, where they come from, why they arise, and what needs or fears they are signaling. By cultivating this understanding, you create a relationship of collaboration rather than confrontation with your own psyche. Observation, reflection, and mindful inquiry act as gentle guides, allowing the mind to redirect itself naturally toward clarity, focus, and purpose. Understanding transforms mental resistance into cooperation, confusion into insight, and wandering attention into deliberate direction. It is through patient awareness that you learn to recognize patterns of distraction, self-sabotage, or fear, and replace them with intentional habits that serve your higher goals. In this way, the mind becomes an ally rather than an adversary, a field of potential to be cultivated rather than a force to be subdued. Control through understanding is not a fleeting victory. It is a profound transformation, a lifelong practice of guiding your mental energy with wisdom, patience, and conscious purpose, leading inevitably toward the realization of your fullest potential. Negative thoughts are often misunderstood as intruders or enemies that must be suppressed or ignored. Yet in the deeper language of the psyche, they are not adversaries at all. They are messengers from the shadow, the hidden and often unacknowledged part of your unconscious mind. The shadow contains everything you have denied, repressed, or failed to integrate: your fears, insecurities, unresolved conflicts, and untapped potential. When a negative thought arises, whether it is doubt, anger, or anxiety, it is a signal, a coded communication from the depths of your inner world, alerting you to unresolved issues or areas where growth is needed. To dismiss these thoughts outright is to turn away from self-knowledge, leaving the shadow to operate unchecked, influencing your behaviors in subtle and often destructive ways. Instead, when you observe negative thoughts with curiosity and without judgment, you begin to decipher the messages they carry. They reveal patterns, hidden desires, and aspects of yourself that require attention, healing, or transformation. Engaging with these messages allows you to integrate the shadow, to transform what once felt like an obstacle into a source of insight and strength. Negative thoughts, therefore, are not barriers to your success. They are guides illuminating the path toward greater self-awareness, balance, and psychological wholeness. By learning to listen to them, rather than resist them, you cultivate a mind that is resilient, wise, and deeply aligned with your higher purpose. The repetition of positive mental patterns is far more than a simple habit. It is a profound act of transformation, capable of reshaping the very architecture of your brain. Every thought you entertain leaves a trace in your neural networks, and when you consciously repeat empowering, constructive, and goal-oriented thoughts, you strengthen these pathways, making them more accessible and dominant over time. The brain, like a living tapestry, weaves itself according to the patterns it encounters most frequently. Just as repeated practice in music or sport refines skill, repeated cultivation of positive mental patterns refines the mind, creating pathways that support focus, resilience, and purposeful action. This is the essence of neuroplasticity. Your conscious efforts can restructure your neural landscape, turning fleeting inspiration into habitual cognition, and habitual cognition into habitual behavior. By consistently visualizing success, affirming your abilities, and framing challenges as opportunities, you train your brain to respond to life with optimism, creativity, and determination, rather than fear or doubt. Over time, these reinforced pathways form a mental architecture that naturally propels you toward achievement, making positive thinking not merely an abstract exercise, but a tangible method of sculpting your destiny. In essence, the mind is a living instrument, and through repetition of positive mental patterns, You compose the symphony of your own success, one thought at a time. Anxiety is not simply a random or meaningless feeling. It is a signal, a subtle yet powerful communication from the unconscious mind, indicating that there is tension between your deeper, often hidden impulses and the conscious plans you are attempting to enact. The unconscious holds layers of unresolved experiences, fears, desires, and archetypal patterns that do not always align with the intentions of your conscious self. When you feel anxious, it is a message that some part of your inner world is resisting, questioning, or warning you about the direction you are taking. Rather than suppressing or dismissing anxiety, it is crucial to approach it with curiosity and reflection. Ask yourself, what is this feeling pointing toward? Which beliefs, memories, or internalized limitations are surfacing in response to my conscious ambitions? Anxiety can reveal conflicts between your true values and your current course, between unresolved shadows and your conscious desires. By acknowledging these signals, you gain insight into the hidden obstacles within your psyche, allowing you to adjust your approach, integrate what's been neglected, or confront what has been avoided. In this sense, anxiety is not your enemy but a guide, a doorway to greater self-awareness, alignment, and ultimately, more effective action. When you learn to listen to it, rather than react in fear, anxiety becomes a compass that points the way to a mind and life more harmonized, conscious, and capable of achieving meaningful success. Creativity is not a random spark but a natural expression of a mind that has been liberated from the clutter of distraction and the chains of self-doubt. When the mind is overburdened with external noise, incessant worries, or the persistent voice of criticism, its capacity to imagine, to innovate, and to connect ideas in novel ways is diminished. A true creativity requires a state of inner freedom, space where thoughts can flow without obstruction, where the unconscious can communicate its insights to the conscious mind, and where the soul can express itself without fear of judgment. Self-doubt acts like a shadow over this process, whispering limitations and questioning worth, subtly steering energy away from exploration and toward hesitation. But when you cultivate focus, quiet the mental chatter, and embrace your own inherent potential, the mind opens like a fertile field ready to receive seeds of inspiration. Patterns, connections, and solutions emerge naturally, often from places you did not consciously direct, because creativity is a dialogue between the conscious and unconscious, between intention and intuition. By protecting your attention, honoring periods of reflection, and fostering a mindset of curiosity and courage, you allow creativity to flow unhindered. In this liberated state, the mind does not merely solve problems or generate ideas. It transforms perception itself, revealing possibilities that were previously hidden, and guiding you toward innovative expression, personal growth, and meaningful contributions to the world. Success is often misunderstood as a distant destination or a prize to be chased, yet in truth, it is not a goal in itself. It is the natural consequence of a disciplined and well-ordered psyche. When the mind is cultivated with clarity, focus, and consistent effort, success arises organically, like fruit ripening on a tree that has been carefully tended. Discipline shapes not only actions but the very structure of thought, aligning desires, intentions, and behaviors with higher purpose. It is the conscious orchestration of your mental, emotional, and physical faculties, ensuring that each step you take resonates with long-term growth rather than fleeting gratification. A disciplined psyche does not act from impulse, laziness, or distraction. It acts from awareness, perseverance, and a deep understanding of cause and effect. In this way, success becomes less about external markers such as wealth, recognition, or status, and more about the internal harmony and integrity of the individual. It is the reflection of a mind trained to pursue excellence, to confront fear, to integrate the shadow, and to persist in the face of challenge. By cultivating discipline, you create a fertile inner environment where success is not forced, but naturally emerges, an inevitable outcome of a mind that is focused, resilient, and consciously aligned with its highest potential. In essence, the path to success is not a relentless pursuit of accolades but the careful, deliberate mastery of oneself, where achievement flows as a natural extension of inner order and psychological strength. Within the depths of your psyche lie archetypes, universal patterns of thought, behavior, and potential that transcend individual experience and connect you to the collective human unconscious. These archetypes are not abstract concepts. They are living, dynamic forces within you, shaping your desires, your fears, and the ways in which you respond to the world. Among them reside the warrior, the sage, the hero, the caregiver, and countless others, each offering unique strengths, guidance, and insight. When you recognize and engage with these inner figures, you unlock profound sources of motivation and resilience that are otherwise hidden beneath the surface of everyday consciousness. The warrior within teaches courage in the face of adversity. The hero inspires perseverance through challenge, and the sage guides thoughtful reflection and wise decision-making. By becoming conscious of these archetypal energies, you learn to draw upon them deliberately, aligning their innate power with your personal goals and ambitions. They provide a reservoir of inner strength, helping you endure hardships, overcome fear, and maintain focus on your path even when external circumstances are chaotic or discouraging. Ignoring these forces is to remain disconnected from the deepest wells of your potential. Embracing them is to awaken a wellspring of inner drive and psychological fortitude. In this way, the archetypes within you are not merely symbolic. They are practical allies, guiding your actions, sustaining your spirit, and empowering you to cultivate a life of purpose, resilience, and enduring success. By consciously integrating these archetypal energies into your awareness, you equip yourself with the keys to unlock untapped motivation, navigate challenges with grace, and realize a life that resonates with both inner fulfillment and external achievement. Awareness of your mental habits is the cornerstone of true transformation, for the mind cannot change what it does not first recognize. Every thought you think, every impulse you follow, and every pattern of judgment or reaction forms a habitual architecture within your psyche, often operating silently and automatically. These mental habits, whether constructive or destructive, shape your perceptions, influence your decisions, and ultimately determine the quality and direction of your life. Without awareness, you remain at the mercy of these ingrained patterns, repeating behaviors and thoughts that may hinder growth, productivity, and fulfillment. The first step toward transformation, therefore, is the deliberate act of observation, noticing which thoughts recur, which emotional triggers arise, and which unconscious tendencies guide your choices. This awareness is not passive introspection. It is a vigilant, conscious engagement with your inner world, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, and the courage to see yourself as you truly are. As awareness deepens, it creates the space needed to interrupt destructive cycles, reframe limiting beliefs, and cultivate new patterns of thought that align with your highest potential. It is through this process that the mind begins to reshape itself, forging pathways of intention rather than habit, clarity rather than confusion, and empowerment rather than helplessness. In essence, awareness is the seed from which transformation grows. It illuminates the shadowed corners of the psyche, reveals opportunities for growth, and equips you with the conscious control necessary to design a life of purpose, mastery, and lasting success. Every decision you make, no matter how small or seemingly inconsequential, contributes to the architecture of your mind, gradually building the patterns, habits, and structures that define your inner world. Each choice is like a brick placed in the foundation of your psyche, shaping the pathways through which future thoughts, emotions, and behaviors will flow. When decisions are made impulsively, without reflection or awareness, they reinforce scattered, reactive, or unproductive patterns, leaving the mind susceptible to doubt, distraction, and unnecessary struggle. Conversely, when decisions are made with conscious intention, guided by self-awareness and alignment with your higher values, they strengthen the neural and psychological structures that support clarity, resilience, and purposeful action. Over time, the accumulation of mindful decisions sculpts a mind that is organized, disciplined, and capable of sustaining focus on long-term goals, while impulsive or unexamined choices create a chaotic landscape of indecision and inner conflict. Understanding the profound impact of each decision allows you to approach life with deliberate care, recognizing that mental habits, emotional responses, and cognitive tendencies are not fixed. They are constructed through repeated choices. In this way, every moment becomes an opportunity to build a mind that is strong, flexible, and attuned to success. By consciously shaping the architecture of your mind through thoughtful decisions, you empower yourself to act with intention, respond with wisdom, and ultimately create a life that reflects not chance or circumstance, but the deliberate design of a self-mastery rooted in awareness and insight. The mind, in its natural state, thrives on clarity, focus, and purpose, much like a river flowing freely toward its destination. When your thoughts are organized, intentions are clear, and priorities are consciously set, the mind operates with efficiency, creativity, and resilience, enabling you to navigate challenges, make decisions, and pursue goals with confidence. Clarity illuminates the path forward, allowing the unconscious and conscious aspects of the psyche to work in harmony, revealing solutions, insights, and opportunities that might otherwise remain hidden. In contrast, chaos within the mind, whether caused by mental clutter, unresolved emotions, conflicting desires, or distraction, creates stagnation. Thoughts collide, priorities blur, and energy dissipates in a futile attempt to manage the disorder. Chaos clouds judgment, diminishes focus, and breeds anxiety, leaving you reactive rather than proactive, drifting without direction. By cultivating clarity through practices such as reflection, meditation, and disciplined attention, you align your mental processes with your higher purpose. You begin to see not only what needs to be done, but why it matters and how best to act. The mind, when clear, becomes a tool of remarkable precision, capable of forging meaningful connections, generating innovative ideas, and sustaining consistent progress. Clarity is the light that guides the mind, while chaos is the shadow that obscures it. By prioritizing mental organization and conscious focus, you ensure that your thoughts serve as allies, not obstacles, in the pursuit of growth, mastery, and the realization of your fullest potential. Visualization is far more than a fanciful daydream. It is a powerful tool of the mind, capable of shaping perception, guiding action, and ultimately influencing reality itself. When you vividly imagine the life you intend to live, you are not merely entertaining ideas. You are training your brain to recognize possibilities, align priorities, and prepare for the actions necessary to make those possibilities tangible. The mind does not easily distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is experienced. By repeatedly visualizing success, achievement, and purposeful living, you create mental blueprints that guide decision-making, focus attention, and strengthen motivation. Visualization awakens the creative faculties of the unconscious, allowing insights, solutions, and inspiration to emerge from the deeper layers of the psyche that are often inaccessible to conscious reasoning alone. It also fosters resilience when challenges arise. The mind recalls the clarity and certainty cultivated during visualization, reinforcing confidence and perseverance. This practice is not mere wishful thinking. It is an active engagement with your future, a rehearsal of the behaviors, emotions, and mindset required to manifest your goals. By imagining the life you intend to live in rich detail, you create a bridge between the present and the potential, shaping your thoughts, habits, and actions in ways that bring that envisioned reality closer to fruition. In this way, visualization becomes a conduit between intention and manifestation, a tool through which the conscious mind and the unconscious mind collaborate, guiding you toward the life that is not only desired but consciously designed. Silence is far more than the mere absence of noise. It is the sacred laboratory in which the mind discovers, tests, and refines its own strength. In moments of quiet, free from the constant bombardment of external stimuli and internal chatter, the mind can observe itself with clarity, confront its hidden fears, and uncover truths that remain obscured in the chaos of everyday life. It is within this stillness that patterns of thought become visible, impulses can be examined without judgment, and the deep currents of the unconscious reveal themselves. Silence allows you to step outside the habitual reactions of the ego and witness the subtler workings of your psyche, granting insight into the motivations, desires, and limitations that have shaped your behavior. In this laboratory, the mind learns patience, resilience, and focus. It discovers that strength is not forceful domination, but the capacity to remain present, aware, and steady amidst uncertainty. Regular engagement with silence cultivates mental discipline, sharpens clarity, and fosters creativity, as the mind is freed from distraction and allowed to integrate knowledge, experience, and intuition. It is in these quiet spaces that solutions emerge, decisions are clarified, and the inner compass aligns with purpose. Silence is not emptiness. It is fertile ground for growth, a mirror reflecting the depths of your consciousness, and a training ground where the mind learns to wield its full potential. Through silence, the mind does not merely endure, it evolves, strengthens, and ultimately becomes a conscious architect of its own destiny. Emotional regulation is often misunderstood as the act of suppressing or denying feelings, yet in reality, it is a far deeper and more conscious practice. It is the mastery of impulses, the ability to observe, understand, and guide your emotional responses rather than being ruled by them. Emotions are powerful signals from the psyche offering insight into needs, values, fears, and desires. To ignore or forcibly suppress them is to sever your connection with important information about yourself and your environment, creating tension, stress, and inner conflict. True emotional regulation, however, involves acknowledging feelings fully, understanding their origins, whether from the conscious mind, the shadow, or the unconscious, and then choosing how to respond in alignment with your higher purpose and long-term goals. It is an act of self-mastery, a demonstration that while emotions may arise naturally and sometimes intensely, they do not have to dictate behavior or cloud judgment. By cultivating this conscious approach, you develop resilience, clarity, and a sense of equilibrium, allowing the mind to act deliberately rather than react impulsively. Over time, this practice strengthens the neural pathways associated with self-control, insight, and adaptive response, fostering a mind that can navigate challenges with grace, respond to stress with composure, and maintain focus even in the face of turmoil. Emotional regulation, therefore, as if not denial but empowerment, it transforms the raw energy of feeling into purposeful action, harmonizes the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche, and equips you to live with integrity, wisdom, and intentionality. It is through this mastery that your mind becomes both steady and flexible, capable of sustaining focus, achieving goals, and cultivating a life of true fulfillment. Inner conflict is never random or meaningless. It is a mirror reflecting the unintegrated aspects of your psyche, the parts of yourself that remain unacknowledged, denied, or suppressed. Within every individual exist multiple layers of consciousness, conscious desires, unconscious drives, and the hidden energies of the shadow that do not always align harmoniously. When these aspects clash, tension arises, manifesting as indecision, anxiety, guilt, or self-sabotage. Such conflict is a signal, a call from the depths of your inner world urging you to examine the fragmented pieces of your identity and to bring them into conscious awareness. By ignoring these conflicts, you allow them to operate covertly, subtly influencing your choices, relationships, and perception of reality. Integration, however, requires courage and deliberate effort. It demands that you face the parts of yourself that you have resisted, acknowledge both strengths and vulnerabilities, and reconcile seemingly opposing impulses. As you engage with this process, the discord within begins to harmonize, giving rise to a psyche that is more coherent, resilient, and capable of deliberate action. Inner conflict, therefore, is not a weakness or failure, but an invitation, a necessary confrontation with the unexamined aspects of the self that, when integrated, enrich your consciousness and expand your capacity for growth. Through this integration, the mind gains clarity, the emotions find equilibrium, and the individual is empowered to act from wholeness rather than fragmentation. The resolution of inner conflict is the path towards self-mastery, for it transforms tension into insight, chaos into understanding, and scattered energy into purposeful, directed action. Self-doubt is not merely a fleeting feeling of uncertainty. It is a shadow within the psyche, a subtle force that emerges from the unconscious and casts its influence over thoughts, decisions, and actions. Like all shadows, it is neither inherently good nor entirely destructive. It carries messages about vulnerabilities, unresolved fears, and aspects of the self that have been neglected or unacknowledged. When left unexamined, self-doubt can quietly erode confidence, stifle creativity, and limit the pursuit of meaningful goals, often without the individual even realizing its presence. However, the power of self-doubt lies not in its ability to paralyze, but in its invitation to awareness and growth. By acknowledging self-doubt consciously, by observing it without judgment, you bring it into the light of understanding rather than allowing it to operate from the hidden recesses of the mind. This acknowledgement does not mean surrendering to it or giving it control over your choices. Rather, it is a recognition that the shadow has something to teach, that its presence signals areas requiring attention, courage, and integration. When faced in this way, self-doubt can become a guide rather than an obstacle, pointing to where inner work is needed and motivating careful reflection and preparation. Over time, the conscious engagement with self-doubt transforms it from a source of fear into a source of insight and strength, allowing the mind to act with both humility and confidence. By integrating this shadow aspect into awareness, you cultivate resilience, self-mastery, and a profound capacity to move forward with clarity, purpose, and courage, unshackled from the unconscious chains that once constrained you. The subconscious mind is a vast and fertile soil, rich with the potential to cultivate the life you desire. Yet it is often overlooked and left untended. It is here, beneath the surface of conscious thought, that habits are formed, beliefs take root, and the seeds of your future reality are sown. Every thought, emotion, and repeated mental image acts as a planting, shaping the landscape of the subconscious and influencing how you perceive the world, make decisions, and respond to challenges. If left unattended, this fertile soil may become overgrown with fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs, allowing the shadows of past experiences or unexamined habits to dominate the mind's direction. But when approached with conscious intention, the subconscious becomes a powerful ally. By deliberately planting seeds of courage, ambition, and positive expectation, you create conditions for growth that align with your highest aspirations. Repeatedly nurturing these seeds through visualization, affirmations, and disciplined actions strengthens the neural pathways that support confidence, resilience, and purposeful behavior. Allowing these qualities to flourish naturally over time, the subconscious does not distinguish between fleeting whims and deeply held convictions. It responds to repetition, intensity, and emotional engagement. Therefore, by consistently feeding it with empowering thoughts and constructive images, you cultivate a rich inner environment that supports innovation, determination, and success. In this way, the subconscious becomes a garden of potential, and you, as the mindful gardener, have the ability to shape your destiny. Plant with intention, nurture with persistence, and the life you envision will grow from the unseen depths into tangible reality. Limitless focus is not an innate gift reserved for a select few. It is a skill forged through repeated practice, deliberate effort, and the disciplined training of the mind, rather than by sheer willpower alone. Willpower, while important, is finite and can be easily depleted by fatigue, distraction, or emotional turbulence. True focus, however, is cultivated over time, becoming a reliable mental muscle that can be strengthened, expanded, and applied consistently across different areas of life. Each time you direct your attention intentionally, resist distraction, and return to the task at hand, you reinforce neural pathways that support concentration, mental endurance, and clarity of thought. This process requires patience, persistence, and self-awareness, for the mind naturally drifts toward familiar habits, scattered thoughts, or immediate gratification. By consciously practicing sustained attention, setting clear intentions, and structuring environments to minimize interference, you gradually train the mind to remain anchored in the present moment, fully engaged with the objectives at hand. Over time, this repeated practice transforms focus from a fragile effort into a stable, almost effortless capacity, enabling deep work, creativity, and strategic problem solving. A limitless focus is not achieved by forcing the mind through brute effort, but by nurturing it through disciplined repetition, mindful engagement, and consistent reinforcement of productive habits. In this way, focus becomes an enduring inner resource, a guiding force that allows you to navigate challenges, accomplish ambitious goals, and act with precision and purpose, regardless of external distractions or internal turbulence. The brain is a mirror of the experiences, information, and stimuli to which it is consistently exposed, reflecting back the quality of what you feed it in thought, sensation, and attention. Just as a garden flourishes or withers depending on the care, nourishment, and seeds it receives, the mind develops, adapts, and evolves according to the knowledge, art, and mindful experiences you allow into it. Feeding the brain with knowledge expands its capacity for understanding, critical thinking, and problem solving, laying the groundwork for informed decisions and enlightened perspective. Immersing yourself in art, whether music, literature, visual expression, or performance, awakens creativity, emotional intelligence, and the subtle perception of beauty and meaning, enriching the inner life beyond utilitarian function. Engaging in mindful experiences, through meditation, reflection, or conscious attention to the present, cultivates clarity, focus, and emotional resilience, strengthening the pathways that support intentional action and self-mastery. Conversely, neglecting the mind, inundating it with trivial distractions, or allowing it to dwell on fear and negativity results in stagnation, distortion, and a weakened ability to respond effectively to challenges. The brain does not passively observe. It actively internalizes and integrates what it is exposed to, creating neural patterns that shape perception, judgment, and behavior. By consciously feeding your mind with what is nourishing, Elevating and purpose-driven, you mold a psyche that mirrors insight, creativity, wisdom, and strength. In essence, the quality of your thoughts, learning, and experiences directly shapes the architecture of your consciousness and, ultimately, the reality you create. The brain reflects the world you cultivate within it. Feed it with care, intentionality, and richness, and it will return a life of clarity, capability, and profound fulfillment. Self-deception is perhaps the most insidious obstacle to true mental sovereignty, for it cloaks reality in comforting illusions while quietly eroding your capacity for conscious choice, clarity, and authentic action. When you deceive yourself, whether through denial, rationalization, or selective perception, you allow the unconscious to operate unchecked, shaping decisions, behaviors, and beliefs without the guiding light of awareness. This subtle betrayal of the self creates a fractured inner landscape, where intentions and actions are misaligned, and where the mind is no longer fully free to act with discernment or purpose. The danger of self-deception lies not only in its ability to distort perception but in its power to prevent growth, for it masks the areas of the psyche that require attention, integration, transformation. To attain mental sovereignty, you must cultivate honesty with yourself, acknowledging both your strengths and your limitations, your conscious desires and your hidden fears. This requires courage and discipline, for self-deception often shields you from uncomfortable truths, and facing reality can be unsettling or even painful. Yet, it is precisely by confronting these truths that you reclaim authority over your mind, dismantle the illusions that constrain thought, and establish a foundation for intentional, autonomous action. Self-deception may offer temporary comfort, but it ultimately enslaves the psyche, keeping you bound to patterns of confusion, avoidance, and unconscious repetition. True freedom of the mind emerges when you pierce the veils of illusion, engage with reality fully, and take responsibility for the entirety of your inner world. In this vigilant state, the mind becomes sovereign, capable of deliberate thought, disciplined action, and conscious creation, empowered to navigate life with clarity, integrity, and profound self-mastery. Consistency in thought is one of the most powerful yet often overlooked forces in the cultivation of resilience and purposeful action. The mind, like a muscle, strengthens through repeated practice and sustained attention. When you consistently direct your thoughts toward clarity, discipline, and constructive intention, you build an internal architecture that supports steadfastness in the face of adversity. Inconsistent thinking, oscillating between doubt, distraction, and fleeting enthusiasm, leads to fragmented action, wasted energy, and vulnerability to external pressures. Conversely, when thoughts are disciplined and repeated, they create mental habits that stabilize perception, sharpen focus, and align behavior with long-term goals. This inner consistency translates directly into resilience, the capacity to persist through challenges, recover from setbacks, and act with purpose even when circumstances are unfavorable. Each deliberate, sustained thought reinforces the neural pathways that enable self-control, strategic decision-making, and emotional equilibrium, forming a foundation upon which action becomes reliable and effective. Furthermore, consistent thought cultivates clarity of vision, reducing internal conflict and the paralyzing effects of indecision. It transforms intention into momentum, allowing the mind to guide behavior with precision, adaptability, and determination. In essence, the resilience you demonstrate externally is a reflection of the consistency you maintain internally. By nurturing your thoughts with repetition, focus, and mindful attention, you create a mental environment in which purposeful action arises naturally, and challenges become opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to progress. The mind, disciplined through consistency, becomes a powerful instrument, capable of sustaining effort, enduring hardship, and manifesting the life aligned with your highest purpose. Every small victory over a fleeting thought, every moment in which you choose awareness over impulse, clarity over distraction, or intentional action over reactive habit, is far more than a minor triumph. It is a decisive victory over the subtle forces that shape your destiny. The mind is constantly bombarded by transient thoughts, passing emotions, and unconscious impulses that, if left unchecked, accumulate over time to dictate behavior, form habits, and ultimately determine the trajectory of your life. Each time you recognize a fleeting thought and consciously choose your response, you assert sovereignty over your inner world, redirecting the flow of energy and shaping the neural pathways that govern future decisions. These moments may seem insignificant in isolation, but their cumulative effect is profound. They reinforce self-mastery, strengthen mental resilience, and gradually reorient the mind toward deliberate, purposeful action. In essence, destiny is not a distant, abstract force. It is the product of countless small choices made within the mind, each shaping the architecture of your consciousness and the patterns of your life. By triumphing over momentary distractions, doubts, or unhelpful impulses, you reclaim power that would otherwise be ceded to unconscious patterns or external circumstance. Every act of conscious choice is therefore an act of creation, a subtle yet potent declaration that you will not be passively carried by the currents of chance or compulsion. The accumulation of these small victories transforms the mind into a disciplined instrument, capable of guiding behavior, shaping character, and manifesting the life aligned with your deepest intentions. In this light, mastery over fleeting thoughts is not merely an exercise in self-control. It is the deliberate shaping of your destiny, one conscious choice at a time. To control your brain is to step into the role of the artist of your own fate, for the mind is the canvas upon which the experiences, decisions, and realities of your life are painted. Every thought you entertain, every emotion you acknowledge, and every pattern of attention you cultivate acts like a brushstroke, gradually shaping the landscape of your inner world, which in turn determines the contours of your outer life. When the mind is left unchecked, dominated by fleeting impulses, distractions, or unconscious habits, the canvas becomes chaotic, filled with colors and shapes that do not reflect your true vision, and the life that emerges may feel fragmented or unfulfilled. But when you exercise conscious control over your brain, you gain the ability to direct, compose, and harmonize the elements of your inner world. You learn to nurture thoughts that empower, to integrate aspects of the shadow, and to cultivate clarity, resilience, and purpose. In this process, the mind becomes a tool of creation rather than a playground of chaos. Each deliberate choice, each act of self-reflection, and each practice of focus or mindfulness adds layers of depth, meaning, and intentionality to the life you are designing. Control of the brain does not eliminate challenges, nor does it render life predictable, but it equips you to respond with wisdom, creativity, and conscious agency. In this sense, mastering your mind is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is an artistic practice, a sacred collaboration between conscious intention and unconscious potential, through which you sculpt your destiny, color your experiences with purpose, and shape a life that reflects the truest expression of yourself. To control your brain is, therefore, to claim authorship over your existence, to transform thought into action, and to create a reality that resonates with both your highest potential and deepest values. Do not mistake chaos for opportunity, nor fear for limitation. Every thought that you tame, every shadow you confront, brings you closer to mastery. Your brain is both the battlefield and the prize. Success is not external, it is the harmony of conscious and unconscious, the disciplined mind, and the awakened spirit. Control your mind, and you control your life. Refuse to surrender to the fleeting whims of distraction or doubt. Stand as the vigilant guardian of your own thoughts, and destiny will bow to your clarity.